He's looking forward to going to LaSalle. He said, I've got my training at CRC. I'm going to swim for my high school. This is what I want to do. He came out of that swimming at the city finals. He didn't care if he came in first place. He came out from that 100 freestyle and said, I just shaved 13 seconds off my best time. He did that because he had the support of his coaches, Lois, Matt, Natalie, all of them there cared. And he, as everybody else has mentioned, he's got friends that he would never even have had the opportunity of meeting. He's got memories, and our little 4-year-old, Lois, is saying, don't go in and save her, she'll make it, she'll swim. And there she goes, coming home with the blue ribbon.
Mural is part of the pool structure. Our community is a better place because of the CRC pool. We also consider recreation an important part of your overall safety plan. You've heard tonight the impact of pools and recreation in giving kids a constructive way to use their time. With all the talk of more police and more jails, let's not forget this. As one of my neighbors said, close the pool and build a jail. I guess if you build it, they will come.
Hello, Charlie Wingberg. Thank you for your membership of the council for letting us be here tonight. My name is BLANE. I'm CEO of Tender Mercies downtown. We house 150 mentally ill homeless. I'm also a 65-year resident of Cincinnati, living in over the Rhine myself. Ms. Atkinson already went over 1.5% of the budget that was allocated to human services that fluctuated up and down, which was a perfect world as far as we were concerned. And we've had funding under that budget for 20 years. I believe eliminating funding for human service is a public safety issue. Tender Mercies, in concert with other public social service agencies and in a very close relationship with the police, takes care of people and keeps the city safer. In 1 year, with 24/7 staffing, which the city helped to provide, we at Tender Mercies reduced calls to the police and emergency services by 30%. And we kept people out of hospitals. We had one woman who was in a hospital 64 days the year before she came to Tender Mercies. And in the 18 years she lived with us, she was in the hospital 2 days. Imagine the savings to the city. We believe that eliminating social service funding will simply severely increase demands on public services and bust your budget in other ways, Mayor. Please return the social service funding to the 1.5% level.
We'll need the open public hearings and make changes before it is passed. The last meeting of council this year is scheduled for December the 20th, and I expect the budget to pass at that meeting. If it doesn't, we will continue to meet until the budget passes. Let me be clear with you that this is a tough budget. This is actually a very, very tough budget. The new city manager came here in the middle of a very difficult budget process, and he had to make the best of the situation and work with what he had. So the manager had to try to include all the policies the city council said they wanted in terms of those policy directives that they spoke about. In order to balance the budget and address the council priorities, the manager had to make a lot of very, very deep cuts. It's not easy to make those cuts. I want to publicly applaud the new city manager right now for the hard work that he did in preparing this budget. From day one, he was given a very tough challenge, and he rose to that occasion in the budget. I want to thank him for his hard work in putting this budget together, and I look forward to working with him and council as we
Well, good evening, everyone. As Mayor Mallory said, I'm Nick Carroll, the actual interim budget director for the city of Cincinnati. I'm just going to do a little bit of a highlights of where we are and a little bit of a background on budget. This is the city's organization card, and it starts at the top with the citizens of Cincinnati, and then it goes forward with the mayor and the 9-member city council, who are both in charge of the city manager. And underneath the city manager, there are 14 departments that directly report to the city manager. Those include departments like police and fire. It also includes departments that provide internal services like the human resources department. It also includes their board and commission-led departments like the Board of Health, the Park Board, and Recreation Commission. And those departments are special since they have commissions and boards that also lead their efforts. We also have, I want to point out, just regional-wide services that are in the city of Cincinnati. Cincinnati's purview, including the Metropolitan Sewer District, which is countywide, and the Greater Cincinnati Water Works, which is actually goes into northern Kentucky and into Mason. And the other service that we have is the Regional Computer Center, since we share services with Hamilton County and police districts or police stations throughout the county. Now let's talk about the budget structure. There are three main components of the City of Cincinnati's budget. The biggest component that we have is the operating budget. And the operating budget is basically for items like salaries, for paper, for pencils, for your utility bills, and the general day-to-day operations of the city. And of the operating budget, we have the general fund, which is the least restrictive fund, and that's where we pay for services like our police and our fire, law, human resources, all the general basic city services. Another type of fund, of course, is restricted funds. And those are funds that are restricted for a specific purpose. And for instance, water and sewers are restricted because the revenue from those services, from the water rate payers and the sewer rate payers, are then used to go back to providing water and sewer services to the citizens. There is another component called non-appropriated funds. Those are more smaller type funds that are not appropriated annually by City Council, but they are still part of our financial picture like grants. The next big component is our capital budget. The capital budget is for like bricks and mortar and fixed assets, buildings, things like that. The general capital budget is similar to the general fund and the operating budget where it's not restricted. And we have in there, the streets of Cincinnati are facilities, like recreation facilities, police and fire, houses. We pay for equipment, and then we also use the capital budget to spur economic development, to increase housing, and to develop mixed-use commercial retail. The other type is restricted capital, and once again, similar to the operating budget, we have restricted capital projects for like water mains and sewer mains, parking facilities, etc. And lastly, we have the capital grants, like state matching grants from ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation. The third component is the consolidated plan budget. These are the federal grants that are passed through to the city, which go for the four purposes listed here. The biggest component is the Community Development Block Grant, and those are for services that are a benefit of low and moderate income people, as well as to eliminate small and neglect. We also have Home Investment Partnerships, which is focusing on housing. We also have Emergency Shelter Grant, which focuses on immediate transitional housing for immediate need of people who don't have more permanent housing. And lastly, housing opportunities for persons with AIDS is the last component of that grant. Okay, this is a little hard to read, but this is what will tell you the overall scope of the budget. And you can see in the 2007 budget column, we have a $1.2 billion budget. The operating budget is $859 million. The capital budget is $337 million, and the consolidated plan budget is $20 million. What we're going to do now is focus mainly on the operating budget and on the general fund, since that is actually predominantly where a majority of the services that affect citizens in the day-to-day is located. First, we'll talk about revenues. The biggest source of general fund revenues is the city's income tax, which is paid by both residents and workers who work in the city.
Of the Voices Committee, and I'm the founder and the president of the Voices Committee. We are all dedicated citizens of the Tender Mercies community. Our CEO has spoken, our other residents have spoken, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room that knows about all the work the Tender Mercies does, and if I can get a round of applause for that. We as a Voices Committee are a group of residents committed to using all available channels to affect positive change in our community. Mayor Mallory has made you were two of those channels. The city only provides a portion of our funding at this time, and we think it would be devastating to us. You see, we have been here for a long time, and our buildings are very old. Complete renovation is needed for some buildings and aesthetic improvements on all 6. As a resident and opinion leader, I'd like to tell you a story about my life that might help you. That without Tender Mercies, I would not be alive today, and there's no other environment in which we challenged individuals could not only survive, but thrive. Prior to coming here, I had no treatment for my mental illness. I was homeless for the 3rd time in 5 college, which gave me the hope that I could really do something with my life. I also became a certified producer of both TV and video programs and was able to give back by producing shows and documentaries geared towards helping those that help homeless people provide the critical services that save lives right here in our city every day. This gave me confidence and courage. In fact, enough kind of courage to apply and to begin college right here at Cincinnati State,